This is the second video in a series of videos on circular trig, and what we're going to start with here is we're going to draw angles in what's called standard position. So that's our goal. So the first thing we have to do is we have to think about angles as they're defined in geometry. And the way that angles are defined in geometry is you start with a point, and from that point you have two rays going in any direction. And an angle is defined as the short distance around there. Right? So this is the angle right here. And we're careful in geometry not to have this to be the angle, but always the short distance here. And if you notice here, the thing about an angle is an angle is always greater than 0. And an angle will always be less than 180 degrees. Sometimes geometry defines as it's less than or equal to 180 degrees, just depending on the way that you do it. But we can't have any angles greater than 180. We can't have negative angles. So what we want to do is we want to break free from this definition. So what we're going to do is we're going to start anew, and we're going to define angles, but we're going to define angles in standard position. And the way that you define angles in standard position is you always start from the same place. So let's put a point here, and let's draw it straight in this direction. And we're going to call this the initial side of an angle. And the initial side of an angle always remains in the same place. So that's the first difference in angle. In geometry, you can have an angle here, you can move it around, and it's kind of free floating in space. We're going to start an angle always in the same place. And now what we're going to do is from this location, we're either going to travel counterclockwise or clockwise. And positive angles will travel counterclockwise, and then they'll have what's called a terminal side. The terminal side is where it ends, and the initial side is where it begins. And if you travel in this direction, that's going to be a positive angle. And you can also travel backwards and make it into a negative angle. Let's start there. Let's say that we want to draw an angle of 120 degrees. The way we do that is we simply start at 0. We're going to travel this direction because it's a positive number. And how far we're going to do from here, we're going to go 120 degrees. Now let's try to get this approximately right. The way I often do is I write in dotted lines the 4 quadrants. If we start here, that's 90, 180, 270. 120 is going to be 90 plus a little bit. It's going to be 90 plus 30. It's going to be roughly there. And I often draw an arrow like this to say which direction we're going. And that's drawing the angle 120 degrees in standard position. Let's draw another example. Let's do an example where we're drawing an angle that we couldn't draw before. Let's draw 299 degrees. Remember, the initial side is always the same, right here. This is 90. We go past that. That's 180. 270. We actually go past 270 as well. If you think about how far do we go past? We go 299 minus 270, 29 degrees. I don't know exactly how far 29 degrees is, but I know this is 45, 30 is roughly like that. So I get a real sense of it. It's going to be approximately right there. To let me know where I'm going off and draw an arrow going like this, and this is 299 degrees. That's how you draw an angle in standard position. And if you notice, by defining the standard position, we can do an angle which is greater than 299 degrees. Let's do one more positive one, and then let's talk about drawing negative angles. So now let's draw one that's greater than 360 degrees. So now let's draw 501 degrees. We always start at the same place, right? I always start at 0. Now this is going to be 90, 180, 270, 360. So we start here and we travel in a counterclockwise direction. That's a positive 360. we have to think about how much further do we go after 360. So 501 minus 360, let's see what that's going to be. Let's make that a 9, that's a 49. Oh, no. My bad. Let's try that again. 501 minus 360, that's 1, and this is 49, that's 131. So we're going to go 131 degrees past 360. So we're going to go all the way around. That's 0, but it's also 360. This is 90. So 360 plus 90 is 90, or it's 450. And this one is going to be 501. It's going to be a little bit past, about 51 degrees past. So it'll be roughly there. To denote the fact that we go all the way around, I often draw it like this. I travel all the way around, kind of a spiral, and get right there. And I put 501 degrees there. That's how you draw an angle which is larger than 360 degrees. Now let's think about a negative angle. What would a negative angle look like? If you think about a negative angle, let's do minus 103 degrees. You start the same way, start in standard position. If you're going this direction, that's a positive angle. So we're going to want to denote that we're going negative. So the way you denote negative is you go in the opposite direction, right? This is a positive angle if you go counterclockwise. So if you go clockwise, it's a negative angle. And again, this is minus 360, so this is minus 180, and this is minus 90. So here we have minus 90, minus 180. Negative 103 is going to be a little bit past 90. If you want to think about how much further, what's the difference between 103 and 90? It's 13, so you go 13 degrees past, so not much. And since you're going negative, you draw it in a negative direction like this, minus 103 degrees. And that's how you draw angles in standard position. This one focuses on degrees, and the next one will focus on doing it in radians.